Hey, what is up guys, Smuffy back for another video, and today we're going to be playing a deck called Rakdos Hellbent, or that's what I've called it. There's a bunch of different names for it, but that's just what to me makes the most sense. So the deck basically plays like a black-red discard style deck where you just pitch cards, like you just discard your own cards and then you use Madness to get extra value from them, and then you get Hellbent really early, which Hellbent is like an old keyword. It means that you've got no cards in hand, and then you can attack with Hazoret the Feverent? I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, basically you just like empty your hand, and then you can play Hazoret and attack with Hazoret, hopefully on turn 4. You also have Arms of the Vein and Fiery Temper to get like extra value for when cards say like discard a card, do something. I think the two most obvious cards are Blood Rage Brawler, which is like incredibly ahead of the curve, and the downside of it is you have to discard a card. But if you're playing cards with Madness and you want to actually get no cards in your hand, then it's actually a huge upside as well. So you're basically just playing a creature that's incredibly ahead of the curve with an upside, which is insane. We're also playing Key to the City again to discard cards, gets you Hellbent, and it also just means that your creatures can't be blocked. So for 1-drops we're playing 4 Dread Wanderer. It's just a really good 1-drop. It gets played in the zombie deck as well, just because it's 1 black mana for a 2/1 and it has recursion. It's just a really good card. 3 Flameblade, Adept, and 3 Bomat Courier. I'm not sure how the list came to 3 and 3. Oh, I should probably explain. This is not my list. This is from the GP. From GP Santiago, Carlos Mohor took it to a 17th place finish at the GP, which is a really good finish, so congrats to him. And this is basically his main deck, and I've just changed to my preferred sideboard. So yeah, we've got Dread Wanderer, Flameblade Adept, and Bomat Courier. Bomat Courier is actually a lot better than it looks in this deck. You frequently end up getting Hellbent, so being able to attack with it once or twice and then drawing 2 cards of it is really good. We're playing obviously 4 Blood Rage Brawler, 4 Key to the City. Initially I thought 4 was a very high amount to play, but you can just discard the ones you draw. Like you can draw, if you draw multiples, you can just discard them to the key, so it doesn't really matter. And sometimes having 2 at the same time is actually really powerful. Being able to just cycle through your deck really quickly looking for a specific card. And then we're playing for Scrap Heap Scavenger. I don't really think this card at this point needs any explanation. It's just fantastic. Already gone over all the 2 Madness cards. We're also playing 4 Unlicensed Disintegration. We're playing 4, 8, 9, 10, 11 main deck artifacts. This card is just fantastic. Again, I don't really think it needs much explanation. And then 4 Hazoret. I thought that 4 was a lot, but again, you can just discard them if you draw them on multiples. I know that Patrick Dickman played 3 in his Jund Gods deck, and I thought that was really high. I thought that 3 of the same legendary creature was pretty aggressive to play 3 of, but I've just found that it just doesn't matter. You can normally just discard them to each other. Unfortunately, sometimes it does slow you down a turn attacking if you can't get your hand empty because you've got 2 4-drops in your hand. But yeah, 4 I think is just... This card is just too good not to play 4 of, really. And then, as I have explained in other videos, I don't like copying people's sideboards, so I'm just going to go over what I've added. The 2 Fatal Push and 4 Magma Spray, these were initially in the original deck list from the GP. What was their name again? Carlos Mohor. Yeah, Carlos had these 6 removal spells in the sideboard, and I thought they were all great. You just need them for all the early decks like zombies and especially Magma Spray, being able to stop them from recurring all their threats. We're then playing 4 Transgress the Mind. This is to get Aetherworks Marvel out of our opponent's hand, and there's also some other decks where you just want to bring it in to get rid of other cards. For example, like board wipes or anything like that. But the main reason this card is in there is for Marvel. Carlos actually played 3 Lay Bare the Heart, which is similar to Transgress, except instead it can take a non-legendary non-land card, and that player discards it. But Aetherworks Marvel is a legendary, so I don't know why they were playing that. I feel like I'm missing something, but obviously I can't speak to Carlos. I don't know who that is. So I would love to see why they played those. I'm going to hopefully there's going to be some footage of Carlos playing the deck, but I don't know, from like the GP coverage or something, but I really don't know what the Lay Bare the Heart is for. So I've just added Transgress to try and beat Marvel. We're then playing 1 Yahenni's Expertise. This again was in Carlos's list. I just thought it was a really good idea to play this to try and catch up if your opponent's playing zombies or something and you can't keep up on board. You can just like reset the board and then start playing threats again. And then we're playing 4 of the this mummy because I think against control we don't really have that much that we'd like to board in, because we want to keep our curve as low to the ground as possible, because we want to be able to enable Hazoret to attack as quickly as possible. And needing 1 or less cards in your hand is pretty difficult if you're playing like Obnixilis and things in your deck, or again even Chandra. Like, sure, you can play her and then you can draw. You don't actually draw the cards; you exile them, so you can keep yourself hellbent. But it's still a little bit difficult if you've got like a Hazoret and a Chandra, and you'd rather just play the Hazoret on like the turn you can on like turn 4 and attack with it. But if you have like Chandras and things stuck in your hand, it becomes difficult. So I've decided to play these. They're just a 2-drop that makes each player discard a card. We don't really care about discarding cards, but against a control deck, they don't want to discard cards. They don't want to pitch their extra lands, because often they need to hit every land drop, and it's just a threat they need to answer. It might just be a 2/2, but again, we have a lot of creatures, and they'll just get in they'll just be in, and I think this card is actually pretty good in the control matchup. There's probably better options, but this was my initial first idea to play against control, whilst trying to maintain the low curve. Anything else really worth noting? The land base is playing 4 Foreground Ruins, which is fine, but it's also playing 4 Smouldering Marsh. I don't like the Smouldering Marsh in the deck. I've played 1 league with this deck, and 5-0'd it which fairly easily, but the Smouldering Marshes consistently were like the reason that I felt the deck wasn't as powerful as it could be. But again, I'm going to stick with the list and just keep playing with the original 60 just to see. I don't know. I assume Carlos has had a lot more experience with the deck than me, so yeah, we're just gonna stick with his land base, as it is fine. And then the other thing to note is we're playing 22 lands, which is incredibly high for a curve that effectively stops at 3. Like, we've only got 4 drops. And the reason for that is you can discard them to Key to the City and the Brawler and Hazoret. So if you do get flooded, you can just discard them. That is the idea, and it's actually worked out pretty nicely. So yeah, that's going to be the deck, and I will see you guys in round 1. Peace.